or something like that. But basically, what I'm do, I duplicate the layer so I can keep the original file. And this is assuming that my lighting is right, how I want it. And this is straight out the camera. So first thing I do is I go and I do a blank. I create a blank layer above it, and I go get my healing brush. I use the spot healing, which is somewhat cheating. I mean, and I always make sure that this is clicked where it says sample all layers, so that way you can do this on a separate brush. And then there's little things that I want to fix. So sometimes I may go in here and actually just point out the areas that I see I want to fix. So let's use this brush, and I just get me a quick brush, and I might just kind of draw. Let me do this so it'll show up. Make this red, something bright. So I might just, so I know what I want. So I see right here, I got a little stain right there. I want to deal with. I come in here. So I got a few little blemishes right here. She had pretty good skin, so this is minor stuff. I'm gonna eventually want to hit here. I see here some different things I want to do. And this, I'll just kind of look it over first so that I know where I want to go. See, right here was a little scar. She has some little things right here. Not a lot of major stuff. She actually looked like she had a nose ring. So let's take that out right there. And so, then this, there goes a little scar there. So there's other little things that we want to make sure we take care of. Alright, and so we got that. Okay, so we'll just turn that layer off for now, just so it don't confuse us. And I'll go again and, well, let's label that. Let's go marks. Okay, so we'll do us a new layer. Go back to our healing brush. And with the spot healing, basically all you're doing is just where you see blemishes, you just spot healing it. The disadvantage of using this one is because what happens is the computer basically it guesses where it's getting its sample from, as opposed to just using the healing brush where you actually use it somewhat like the clone stamp. But just for the time's sake, I just go with the spot healing. And now this is a process that can take as long as you want it to take, because there's always little things you can do, little blemishes. And so I like to get in here and get the major ones. I do a quick retouch. I try to make sure that I keep the natural skin texture as much as possible, because I don't want it to look plastic. I want you to know that it's been touched up, but not look like it's been so touched up to where it looks fake. And of course, that's contingent upon a good makeup job, as well as a person taking care of the skin. Now, she's actually got great skin, and she did a decent job with her makeup, but not overdoing it. I'd rather underdo it than overdo it. Now, moles and different things I tend to keep anything that's permanent, especially if it's a big mole. Little moles and different things like that, I may take those out. But if it's something big, I'll keep those. Okay. Let's see. So we go through. Let's see. We just kind of spot healing. Just little cleanups. I won't do a whole lot for this, so we'll be all day. And let me turn this on, like I said, to see those areas. See right here, I had a few bumps. Got a little something going on here. I'll take care of. looked like she might have had the chicken pox or something. We'll make sure that's kind of taken care of. We ain't gonna overdo it. Right here was a little scar. I'm gonna turn this off because it'll try to sample from that as well. So that little scar, we'll take that out. Okay, and let's say we've done all that. We'll get this little stretch mark. You see right there. See, that's where he tried to guess. So you got to kind of go over and get it fixed. Because I guess wrong. We had a little mark on the wall right here that we want to clean up. Okay. So we done that. Now what I do is, and sometimes I do this first because you got to remember we sampled, but I made sure I didn't get up under the eyebrow. So what I do sometimes, I'll go back to our original, and just to get some of the bags out. And you got to be real careful because they'll look swole up. And I may come down here with my lasso tool and make a copy like that. And then I'll do Control J to copy that. And so that gives me, and then I just slide it up over there. And then I take my warp tool and I'll just kind of warp it to make sure that it gets under the eyes pretty good. Okay. Sort of like that. Okay. And then what I'll do me a layer mask. I take my brush and I probably lower my flow to about 50. That way I can build up how I mask this out, because you just want it to blend. Make sure you got a feather tip brush, and then you just start blending with your black till it blends in pretty good, so you don't see a harsh line. And and then make sure you get up under the eyes, because you want it to look natural. Do that, and then we lower the opacity so that it blends, because what you want that natural shadow to come through a little bit. You just want to kind of lighten it up. It's not so important with her because she doesn't have major bags under her eyes. So what we did, so that's with it off, that's with it on. Just adds a little more beauty to it, nothing major. Okay, and then we'll do the other side as well. And then we got to go down, and what I do, I always label my stuff. So that's her right eye. Okay, and so over here, we'll go over here again. We'll take a sample down here around the cheek area. We'll hit Control J. So this is on a separate layer. We'll bring it up. And then we'll go and we'll warp it. Just kind of get the ends to kind of touch. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mask it. Just so that it blends in somewhat naturally and you don't see the harsh lines. And then we lower that opacity so that to where it starts looking natural. Okay, and that's her left eye. Alright, so we've done that. Now what I do is I where I try to even my tones. So after I've done my spot healing and any major cosmetic surgery, I'll go in here and I find me like a medium tone that I like. So somewhere around here, let's see. Probably about right there. I just kind of take the eyedropper, get a good tone. And so what I do is I take me a separate layer. I lower that opacity to about 15 because it's going to be real light. What I'm going to do now is basically try to even my tone. So I'm going to have to find where the shadow areas and color discolorations in the skin and try to get them to not have a harsh line that separates. So I'm about so I do about 15 with a flow of about 13. And this is where I go in here and I find little areas where the skin color is just off a little bit. So like right here, and this is something that you build up on. That's why your flow is low, because it's you're gonna use a different amount. And the flow basically is almost like how many coats of paint it takes, to get it full. And so we'll go in here, and when you got the opacity and flow this low, you almost think it's not doing anything, but it is. But it's so low that it makes it look natural. So like just where your hard lines start to separate, this is a good place to get up under your eyes and kind of lighten some of that bag under the eye area a little bit. And you can just build it up. So right here we got some dark area right here. That's not necessarily a shadow. We don't necessarily want to kill the shadows, we just want to control them. And now on every woman around this area right here, they tend to have a shadow that we don't notice in person, but so I always go over this area to try to lighten this area up on women. To kill that little shadow that they tend to have. That don't necessarily translate to beauty. I mean, not for me, depending on what you're into. But, not me. So see, like right here where the skin is just discolored, we're just gonna kind of build it up. We're not doing the whole face. See, like right here, this is a shadow, so we're not necessarily gonna mess with that, but what we want to do is try to make the transition into the shadow smoother. So right here, okay, even where she's got her blush at, we want to transition the blush just a little smoother. So we're going around the outside of it so that we don't have such harshness. And up here we got a little discoloration. Like I said, see, it's so and this is where you want to use your brackets to be able to change the size of your brush that you're using, because as you flowing, remember the bracket to the right makes you bigger, bracket to the left makes you smaller. And come down here as well, just some. And notice I'm using the same color, because what we're going to do is, that's one thing, we want to even out the skin tones of her body as well as her face. That's what tends, especially when people put makeup on, it really makes the face sometimes a whole different color, so you want to try to get it balanced. So we go through and we do that. Now one thing I did remember that I forgot that ring, so I'm going to go back down to my healing. Let's label that. Go down to my healing, and I want to heal this little nose ring indentation. And sometimes when you go back, you gotta turn off the paint, because remember we're sampling all layers, so it gets confused. So we do that, and then let's go back here and kind of kind of brush that area up a little bit again and even that tone. And so see, now we just did some light touching to kind of get the tones even. And like I said, it was light, but it looks like we didn't do anything. Let's see if you turn it off, turn it on, you see that there was actually some things done. Now what I like to do is I always copy what color that is, so that way if we have to go back, we know. And I name that layer that. Okay, so then what we're going to do, we're going to do another layer. We're going to keep the same color, but now we're going to take it up to about 50 opacity, and the flow is going to be about at 30. And so now what we're going to do, now we're going to tie everything together. So we're going to, with this light brush, we're actually going to go and we're going to paint over the whole skin and body with it. Okay, so we did the little undertone, and on this I'll even go into the shadowed areas, because what we're going to do, we're going to control it with our opacity. Okay, now we got to get down into the neck area as well. Let's say we've done that. You might want to put a couple extra coats over the little areas like that. And then I lower this opacity all the way down to about 30%, 29-30%. Okay, so it just kind of, and so then what happens is we see that this stuff like this is still a little too light. So on that's on this layer. Well, first of all, let's make sure we label that same color. But on this, we still is a little light in the areas right here, and the entire thing may be a little light. So we'll go back to the under layer and we'll lower that to, let's say, about 75% on this one. And so since that's still not quite blended in, I'll take my eraser and let's lower the opacity of this to probably about 40%, because we want them. And let's just start erasing it, that area on that under layer until it starts to blend in a little bit. There it is. There we go. Okay. So then what I do is I look over, and if there's still a few areas, I'll do me one more layer at the same 50-30. And I'll go in, and like I said, I'm big on these shadow areas that's not glamorous. And so I'll go back over in this area, give it another coat, and we basically just looking for little areas that still aren't quite right. And we're gonna that, and then we'll lower that opacity as well to make sure it blends, so we get a good blend. So we come down to about 50%. Okay, so now one of the processes of doing this is that we get the tones kind of even, but it kind of flattens your image a little bit. So you want to make sure you bring back some curves. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that, bring the shadows and highlights in through dodging and burning. So the best way to do it, one of the ways to do it is to do it on 50% gray layers, so you don't have to actually dodge and burn on the actual image. So on the PC, you hold the Alt key down and you hit a new layer, and it brings up this. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to name this Dodge. Okay, we want the mode to be an overlay, and we want to do 50% gray. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and copy that layer. Just Control J to copy it, and we're going to name this one Burn. Okay, I like to keep everything separate, my burns and my dodge. So since we're on the burn, we'll go ahead and get our burn tool over here. Okay, I do my exposure about 24, And basically what you want to do is you want to go and you want to find the natural shadow areas and you want to enhance those. If you can't see them, one of the things you can do is you can actually copy the original layer and bring it up over all your edits. So now you can see them again, and then go back to your burn layer and you can just burn them back in. On this one we can pretty much see them, so we don't necessarily need to do that. So I'm gonna delete that. Okay, so you're on your burn layer, and all we're gonna do is we're gonna go and we're just gonna where the shadows are at, we're gonna just enhance the shadows again. You know, you should be able to see them. Okay, and so you find your shadows and we're just burning them back in a little bit. And this gives the curvation back of the body so it doesn't look so flat from the skin retouch. Okay. Shadow right here. Nose. One of the things you can do to help slim a nose is do a shadow on the outside of the nose. I like to burn in the eyebrows sometimes on women. You don't want to do this on men. Okay, you got the shadows going on in here. You want to make sure your brush is the size of the shadow, because if you don't, you're gonna lose the whole effect, because it's gonna burn, you know, too much. I even like to do a little burn of the lips sometimes. It just gives a, especially when they kept their lips somewhat nude like she did, which I asked her to do on this one. You find the natural dark spots in the hair. Okay. What I do is on a woman, I come in here and I'll enhance her eye makeup, do a burn, especially the eyelashes. She does a real good job doing her eyes. You can actually see the lashes real well. And so you want to get her eyeliner. Let's burn that in a little more. Okay, so right in here, what I do is, see, there's a natural separation in her eyes between the iris and the rest of the pupil. So that dark spot, I like to burn that so it enhances that separation. And so I do it on the same line. We're going to go ahead and get her eyelashes, burn those in. Okay, and then what we'll do, we're going to go to the dodge layer. We're going to switch this to dodge. And now we're going to burn, now we're going to dodge in the highlights where light hits. And there's just little natural areas. You can see them. And so, like I said, if you put a shadow on the outside and you throw a light on the inside, it'll make the nose automatically slim a little bit. Find the highlights in her hair. Let's get the ears. Now, if you see this little catch light in the eyes, that's where you can actually see the light modifier that I use. Right here, we use a beauty dish, and you can actually see it in there. I like to enhance that light, and we just do that with the dodge as well. Just give it a little more spark. The pupil, now you don't want to overdo it because we're going to actually deal with the whiteness in here a little different, but I just give it one little pop just to kind of pop it open a little bit. And then I also go in here where the light is the brown area, so we can get that separation from that black, we'll go ahead and dodge it a little bit, and it just kind of lightens it a little bit to give that separation from the black part of the eye and the brown part. And you'll notice as people get older, that separation is not as prominent. More older people, your eyes start getting just totally black, and you'll see a little more reddish into the eyes. You don't see the eyes not as white as a younger person. I think she's probably about 25, 26 years old. So let's go ahead and get this hair, dodge some in there. Because we only use a one light source, you got strong shadows. Okay, so we got that. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and, it's not necessary to do it on her, but for the sake of the tutorial so you can see it, we're going to play with the white in her eyes a little bit. So what I do an adjustment layer, and may go to hue saturation, and I'll go to lighten, and that lightens the whole thing. So what you want to do is click on the mask and hit Control I, so it inverts the mask. And then what we're going to do is we're going to color it in. So let's bring our opacity, to about 26. Actually, let's take it to 100, and we'll keep our flow at like 30, because we're gonna do opacity on the layer. And so we want to make sure it's on white, and then we'll just color this white area in. Just the where we want it. And it's going to look very unnatural at first, especially in these areas that's supposed to be dark. But like I said, on hers is pretty good. We could have actually just kind of did some spot healing to get some of those little veins out. But on another image, it may not be as good. So we're right there. Like I said, because her eyes are so white, it don't look as unnatural. But what we'll do, we'll go here and we'll lower that opacity down to when it starts to look pretty natural. Probably right about 41. So we just gave it a little extra pop, no big major thing. All right. So we've done all that. What I do is I take all of those layers that we touched up minus the original, and I group them into a folder. Okay, and we can throw away the little marks on that we did. Group them into a folder. So basically, I got that's my before, that's our after, my before, after. So what I do is I take that layer of those groups, and in CS6 you can do this with just Control J. In CS5 you can't. You have to right click. So let's do it. So you can right click and you go to duplicate group. I want to duplicate it. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to merge the group. Okay, so basically what we did, we took all our edits and we merged it into one file, but yet we kept the edits as well. So we still got all the layers of the edits, but then we got a copy of it here, and we're going to do that because what we want to do is do a sharpen. You can only do a sharpen. It's a global adjustment. So we'll call this sharpen. And what I like to use is the unsharpened mask. And what I tend to do is I tend to over sharpen because I like to bring it down in opacity. So we'll turn it up here to about 171. I'm at about 2.6 radius, about the level 3. Okay, so we go there, and then what we want to do is as you zoom in, sometimes the sharpen, it brings out the texture of the skin, which is real good. But we'll lower the opacity just a wee bit so it don't look too harsh. We'll bring down to about 70% on this one. And this is going to be a case-by-case basis. It's just weird how different photos do different things. So we want to do that. Okay, and once we've done that, that's generally the end of the skin retouching that I do. Now from there, I'll start doing some color adjustments just to give it some type of high fashion feel. So I do that in my adjustment layers. And one of the things that I do is we'll start out with the brightness and contrast. And one of the things I do that I know we was talking about is I lower the contrast levels. Okay, so when you lower your contrast, that's what gives that somewhat light hazy look. And so we'll lower our contrast about 20 and lower our brightness a little bit so that it flows to maybe about 3%. Okay, so we got that. Then another thing I like to do is let's go in here and go to our color balances. And let's go into our shadows. And I like to add a little blue to my shadows. Now you see what that did? It just gives it a little more drama. So we turn up our blues in the shadows. And then let's turn up on this. Let's turn the highlights up. With our highlights, let's bring a little more yellow into our highlights. And so now we're getting that golden brown nice look that's going on with a nice contrast to kind of enhance the shadows a little bit. Okay. Now what I want to do, I want to soften up these blacks a little bit. So I'll go into my levels. Let's go into levels. Do that. And what we want to do is just kind of soften the black so that where my black point is, it's not as black. On there. So this all kind of softens you up. This is that kind of new magazine feel. What it also did was it kind of brings out a little more details in my hair while still giving me a nice shadow. So do that. Let's see here. There we go. Alright. Then I want to play with my curves a little bit. Let's see here. Again, we're gonna I want to get a nice curves in my lighting so that I want to be able to control where my blacks and my whites are on this image. So I'm doing that through my curves. Okay. And from there, we're about done. On this, let me turn my vibrance up just a little bit. I don't want to turn my saturation up. I don't want to give that red, but I just want to kind of pop up just a wee bit of that vibrance just to give it a nice pop. Because we kind of dulled it out a little bit with what we did. And so I'll do that, and I'll group that, and I'll just call that colors. And so let's group both of those groups together into one big group. So we got our before, and we got our after. Before, after. And then with colors, without colors. Colors, without colors. This kind of softens you up. Didn't take no time to do. And that's a wrap. Alright, I'm about to call you.